Welcome in everyone to the second video of the how-to basics of Blender. In this video, we're actually going to be discovering how to actually start modeling. This is the fun one. I know a lot of people has been really looking forward to the actual modeling process because it's a big portion of Blender, especially this person right here. Shout out to you awesome, amazing people. I'm glad that the videos are actually helping you guys out. And please, let me know if there's anything that you would like to see specifically for the videos here, because I would love to cover them, okay? So, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, so we're gonna go ahead and go into modeling. The best part, the previous video got us to this point here. I actually talked about the controls, how to get used to Blender a little bit. The bare minimum's basics, okay? So here we are, we got a reference image. Let's start modeling, okay? So the first thing that we're gonna cover before we actually get into the really nitty-gritty good stuff is we're gonna actually talk about sizing and the measurements, why it's important, because it's gonna help out a bunch when it comes to modeling, okay? So let's go ahead and jump on in and get to it, okay? So here we are inside of Blender. There it is, looking great. We got our cube here, our reference image. I'm gonna kind of hide this a little bit because I'm gonna focus on the cube right now. So what is sizing and scaling, and why is it important, and how can we know? Basically, if we put this in Unity right now, we wouldn't know exactly how big this would be. Like, how big is this cube compared to like someone in the world or whatever, right? This could be like as big as a planet or as small as an ant. We wouldn't know because we haven't defined how big it is, okay? So I'm gonna come up here to the thing. I'm gonna import a FBX, which is going to be, this is gonna be like a little person. Let me get it on here real quick. This kind of shows, here he is, look at him. This is Joe, everyone. Y'all can say hi to Joe. He's a little nervous. I know he doesn't have any clothes on, but that's the style nowadays. So Joe here, why is he important? So this guy is my little reference image, okay? So this is actually the size of a 6-foot person. Are you 6 feet tall? Are you close to it? You would be about this big if you were inside a virtual world with this cube. This cube is massive. Holy crap. So how did I get this to be 6 feet tall? How do I know how big it is, and how do I show it? Well, that's where measurements come in handy, and it's gonna help out a lot when we do the modeling process. So let's go ahead and show how to actually do the measurements, okay? So to first do this, we're gonna have to be in edit mode. Right now we are in object mode. In fact, if you go up here to the top left, you see where it says object mode? That is actually like the default standing thing. So if we actually hit the down arrow on this, you can see where it says edit mode. You can actually go to that, and you can hit tab. The tab key is the hotkey to go in and out of edit and object mode. And yes, there are other stuff here that you can actually do, but we're gonna cover those in later videos, okay? So we wanna focus on the edit mode. Hey, yo, we can actually see the cube here. In fact, look at this. We can even actually start deforming this cube. That's kind of cool, right? You know, so if we select on Joe here, and I hit edit mode, look at that. We can see everything that makes up Joe for the mesh wise. So we're gonna have the cube here selected, and then we want to be in edit mode where we can see all of the cool stuff. And why is that important? Well, that's how we're able to show the measurement. So if you go up here, remember how we found the blue line in the overlays tab? So if we hit the down arrow now, as long as we're in edit mode, there's gonna be a lot more different options. You may not see this. If you don't see this, you're probably in edit object mode. You have to make sure you're in edit mode, okay? So when you're in edit mode, go up to the overlays, hit the down arrow, and then go to the bottom where it says measurement. So it's got a couple different things. We wanna focus on edge length. So I'm gonna hit edge length, and now if we select 2 points here, you see where it has the 2M, that means 2 meters long. In fact, see how we can actually select the little points here? This is called point mode or vortex mode. If you go up here to where it says edit mode, and just to the right, you see the 3 different options. We got the point, the line, and the face. The hotkeys for this is 1, 2, and 3. These come in very handy when it comes to modeling. So with edge mode, you can see the lines. You can just select the edges that make up the cube. The face mode, or the 3, can have the flat faces. Anything that makes up 3 or more points makes a face, and as long as it's like flat, like a cube, essentially. Picture this as a massive cube, okay? So we have those, and it shows the 2 M's, right? Now watch this. This is where applying and scaling and all that stuff comes in handy. Let's go back to object mode, and let's hit the S key. The S key scales. It makes it bigger and smaller, and we can make this thing massive like a building, or small like a little bitty cube, okay? Let's do the big building, okay? Now, remember how it said 2M before? watch this. If I go back to edit mode, it still says 2M. But wait, we just changed it. We just scaled it to be massive. There's no way it's still 2M. Well, that means that we have to apply the scale that we just did. I know it can sound very confusing, but just know that any changes that you make outside of edit mode, if it's a scale, a rotation, a location, an animation, you have to apply that. So what do I mean? If we hit tab again and we make sure we're in object mode again, we have to apply the size that we just made. How do we do that? Well, if we hit Control and A, that brings up the apply menu. So Control A makes it where you can apply any change that you made. In this case, we made the cube bigger, so we changed the scale. I usually do the all transforms, but you know, if it's changing like anything with like animation or anything, but we're gonna go ahead and just hit scale, okay? So now when we go back to edit mode, look at that. Look, the number has changed now. It's not 2M anymore, it's 3.87M. It means that it went up. It is the correct size of how big this cube would actually be. Yeah, this thing is like 3 meters long. This is about as like big as a house almost. It's crazy. So we are actually on this series going to be working in millimeters. Now, meters is good. You can work in meters, but this series specifically, we're going to change it to millimeters. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So if we go all the way to the right over here to this window that we've never really covered, this is the properties menu. We're going to go until we see this little tab right here. You see where it's got like the little circles with the cone? It should say scene properties. We're going to click that guy and it's going to show a different couple options here. We want to make sure we go to the units tab here, hit the drop down arrow, and inside of units, there is all of the stuff with length, the mass. You can even change the temperature, which is insane. We want to change the length from meters to millimeters. That's what I like to prefer to work in, and that's how we're going to have probably different things unless if you're inside of millimeters for length. So don't forget, come over here to scene, go to units, length, millimeters. Now we can look at it that it's 3,870 millimeters. This kind of shows you a little bit more than meters. It kind of gets more fine detailed numbers, okay? So that's why I like working in millimeters. So this case, you can actually Google how big is a crate, like in millimeters, and then you can go from that. You can actually select A in edit mode. You see how now it's selected all of the faces, and you can see all of the numbers that make up the edges and stuff. And if I hit scale now with S, you can change those numbers to be exactly how big you want this thing to be. We're going to have it about 800, you know, let's say 800 is a good one. You can actually hold shift and see how when I'm moving it with my mouse and I hold shift, it instantly slows it down. You can do that too. So we're going to get it to about 800. How does that sound? That sounds cool. 800 millimeters all around. But now look at this. The box is kind of like in the ground. You see how Joe here is standing on like this imaginary ground here? I'm going to show you guys how to snap and change the origin on objects to make it to where scaling could be a little easier. We're going to use it a lot in the upcoming series. If you want to skip ahead, you're more than welcome to. This part is not really super important unless if you want to make it, you know, snap the origin to certain objects, okay? So I'm going to show you guys why it's important. So let's go ahead and cover it, and then we'll get into the modeling. So how do I change the origin? In fact, first off, what is the origin? The origin is, you see this little orange dot? If I move the cursor around here, see that orange dot? That is the origin for the cube. That is basically the center point. That is the thing that you will move around, you will change around. You'll see. It's very confusing to describe right now. Essentially, if I click on Joe here, his origin is between his feet. So that means if I want him to, like, say I want to, you know, put this, I'll show you guys what all this means. If I want to snap him to the world, look at that. Look, I can snap him up there. If I want Joe to be up here, bang, look, there he is. I want him to be over there. Bang, there he is. That's kind of what the origin comes into play, and the snap tool and all that. I know it's showing a bunch of craziness right now. I'm going to explain what all of this means. The little radial wheel and all that. So if you hit Shift S, it has the snap option. I'm going to put it up here so you can see a little bit because I might be in the way. So you have the snap option. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. What does all this mean? There's cursor to selected. There's selection to cursor. There's cursor to world origin. What does all this mean? So basically, this, if you left click, remember in the first video we talked about the target thing? This is called the cursor. Okay, this plays a big part. And the selection is if you right click it, you see how this now is selected, right? The cube is selected. That is selection. We have the cursor and we have the selection. Pretty cool. So if I want to move this dot, right? Like say I want to move this cube up there. See how it's popping and snapping in the middle of the cube? What if I don't want it to snap in the middle? Like what if I put this back in the, this is the world origin, by the way, the where all the points meet to the center point. More on that later. But let's say I put the cursor there, but I want the cube to be on the ground, like flat, like as if this was like actual ground. If I hit shift and I do selection, which is the cube, to cursor, that means that whatever is selected is gonna snap to the cursor here. Well now it's kind of, you know, it's in the ground. How do we fix that, right? You know, like now the cursor's up here, you know, whatever. How do I get this guy to like be flat on the ground? So I'm gonna show you guys how to actually change the origin and to do that. I know it's a long description. So we're gonna go back to edit mode. Remember that's tab, and then you can have like where you can select the faces and stuff. We wanna be in face mode right here where it has the three options, or you can hit the 3 key. We're gonna right click the bottom face. This is where it's gonna be on the ground, okay? So we're gonna select the bottom face. Now we're gonna hit Shift S, and we're gonna have cursor to selected. Right now, the bottom of the cube is selected. We want that cursor to snap to it. So we hit cursor to selected, and it snaps it perfectly in the middle. I mean, I can try to manually get it in the middle, but you will know if you hit Shift S, cursor to selected, it's gonna be in the direct middle, okay? I'm gonna show you why this is all important. Now we're gonna go back to object mode, okay? So it's not edit, but object mode. Just to the right of that, you see where it says object. We're gonna hit the down arrow on that. And then right here, you see where it says set origin. Now we're gonna change that orange dot. We want the orange dot to be on the bottom of this cube. Since we snapped the cursor to that, we want the origin to be where the cursor is. Origin to 3D cursor. So we're gonna click that, and now that orange dot has now snapped to that cursor. Even if we move the cursor, that origin's on the bottom of the cube. Remember how that, everywhere that we moved this cube, the origin was like where it moved to? So now if I move the cursor to the world origin, knowing that that is flat on the ground, you see how the origin now is on the bottom? Like it's kind of like below that. We right click the cube in object mode. We want to make sure it's selected. We're going to hit Shift S, and then we're going to make sure we have selection to cursor, which means that the cube here is selected. We snap it to the cursor. Now it is completely flat on the ground. I know that was a lot to take in. Whoever stuck around here, comment, be like, I did it, man. I made it through. Why is that important? Why did we do all this? Why did we put the origin on the bottom of the cube, and why is it selected to the ground here? Well, if I have it selected and I hit the S key, now it only scales on the ground. If I go like to the thing like this, and I'm looking at it sideways by hitting the one on the numpad, and I hit scale, it's not gonna go below the ground. So that's a little quick tip there. In fact, we can actually get it to where his waistline is, and we can actually now make sure, because we're in object mode and we just scaled it, and it's not in edit mode, we hit Control A and we apply the scale. And now if we go back to edit mode, you know, with hitting tab and we hit A, now we've changed it a little bit. It's 851. Well, that's about right. That's about where we want it to be, the scale wise. We want it to come up to about his waist. I think that's pretty cool. All right, now let's get into modeling. If you guys made it this far or skipped to this point, trust me, I know it can get a lot. But the basics of actually modeling, that's the most important thing in this video. So let's go ahead and dive into it, okay? So we have this cube, and we want to actually start modeling this box, okay? How do we actually start doing this? What is our first instinct? When I look at this image, what is my first instinct to be like, how am I gonna start modeling this? Well, if we look at it, see how some of the things here, like these boards, kind of make up the support on the sides here and the corners. You can see the thickness of the boards. You can kind of see the slant of the crates, the old-timey looking slants to kind of give the support beam. We're gonna model all of that. We're gonna look at how to do that. So we're gonna start kind of talking about basic geometry. Oh my goodness, if you took geometry and you love it, this is the class for you, okay? But if not, trust me, I want to make it fun. I want to make it super, super fun up here. So the geometry for this, basically looking at this, that these are the corners of the cube, right? We have the cube here. You see the corners. But now we want to make these little support beams on the sides. You see how we have like these planks on the side of the board, or the crate here? We want to make that. So we're going to introduce loop cutting, okay? Make sure you're in edit mode and you have the cube selected. That's what we're editing. We're going to introduce loop cuts. How do we do that? We hit Control R. So Control R does loop cuts. And you see how when I start doing the loop cut here, there's like this imaginary yellow line that goes around the cube, okay? See how wherever I move my mouse around the cube, it's going to change this orientation. So it doesn't really matter which way, as long as you get 2 of them. So right now there's only 1 line. You can see how it's like right now it's parallel with the red line. And if I come over here, it's kind of like parallel with the green line, like that. And then this way kind of goes around the blue line. So we're going to start on the red line. It doesn't really matter which way you start because we're going to do it on all the faces. We're going to scroll our mouse wheel up. And in fact, if you look at the very bottom left down there, you see where the number is going up and down by how much I'm, scaling it. You can even type in the number too. We want to scroll or type in 2. We want to do 2 loop cuts, okay? So we want to have it where there's 2 of these little imaginary yellow lines going around. It doesn't matter which way, just as long as there's 2. We're going to left click, and now here's the important part. As soon as we left click it, we can move them around, okay? We don't want to do that. We want it to be symmetrical, okay? So how do we get out of this? We actually just right click, and now it'll snap them right there, perfectly perpendicular, whatever. The sizes are all the same. This is where measurement comes in handy. You see how now we can see the numbers. We can see that they're perfectly 284 millimeters. That's where measurements come in handy. It's going to help a lot when we do the lines. So there's 2 that way. We're going to do 2 this way. If we go on the yellow line now or green line, whatever you look at that from colorblind, Control R, scroll up to 2, or you can type into left click and then right click. Pretty cool, right? And then we're going to go around the box this way. So Control R, make sure it's going around like it's lassoing around the cube here. And we're going to scroll up or type in 2, left click, and then right click. Now look at this. It's like a big Rubik's cube. All of these little squares, if I go to face mode, see how all of them are exactly the same size? It's a cube of cubes. Holy crap, that's awesome. So let's just put this in the world and be done. I'm kidding, by the way. So now we have these lines. So why 2 lines? Why do we make this? I'm going to show you guys. If we look back here at the reference image, we want to make, excuse my voice, we want to make the thickness of these borders. You see how these little support beams on the sides here, how thick they are? These guys are kind of like regular planks, right? These guys, this is like pretty big. They're pretty massive. They take up 1/3 of the cube. We want to shrink them down to where they're about this size, which we'll play around with. So how do we do that? We can actually start by selecting the lines, all right? We're going to start with the X. See how the red line here? We're going to select the lines that are parallel with that, which will be these guys, right? So instead of like right-clicking, we have to be in the line mode. You can hit 2 or you can come up here and hit that one. We want to be in the line mode, and we want to, hold shift and collect this, That could take a while. How do we actually multi-select? Well, as you start kind of going here, you can hold shift. If you hold control and say I want to kind of skip a few and then right click, it'll actually take the shortest path to wherever you right click. Pretty cool, right? You can also hold shift and right click over here, but let's say you want to select the whole entire loop cut that we made. If you hold alt and right click, it'll actually select the whole line for you. That's the fast way of selecting the line, but now it deselected this one. How do I get that back? Well, we hold alt right click to select this one. Now if we hold shift and then alt right click, it'll select this line too. Now we want to, we've selected the lines that are parallel with the red line here. I'm going to move this one over here so you can see this one more. They're parallel with the red line. So we want these guys to scale away from each other. We want them to kind of get closer to the edge here. See how we have it where they're a little bit skinnier? We want these guys to go away from each other. How do we do that? We want to scale them by hitting S, but whoa, holy crap, this thing is getting big, like it's getting bloated or shrinking down. How do we fix that? Well, to scale them away from each other, we have to see by what origin are we going to have to scale these guys on. You can see that the green line here, we want it to be scaled on the Y. So if we scale them on the green here, we'll actually, if I hit S and then Y, now they're scaling away or towards each other, because it's locked on the Y-axis, like the previous video we talked about grabbing. So we're going to scale them away, and we can select a number. Let's say 100. 100 sounds cool. Right there. So we scaled them away. They're exactly 100 all the way around on each side, okay? 100 millimeters, all right? That looks about right. It doesn't have to be exactly, but we're comfortable with 100. So 100 millimeters all the way around. That's pretty cool, right? So now let's do it this way. Remember how we did the red line? Now we're going to go and we're going to alt right click and then shift alt right click, and we're going to select the lines that are parallel with the green. but now we want to scale them away. Well, now if we hit S and Y, they're going to go along the Y that way. We don't want that. We want them to go on the X. So we hit for the red line. We want them to scale away from each other, and now we're going on the X. This is why the origins are very, very important, when I said in the first video. So we're scaling them away. Now they are exactly 100 by 100 squares all the way around. But now we got these lines going this way. How do we do this? So if we alt right click, alt, and then shift alt right click, we select these lines that are going around the Z here. Now we want to shift these guys away from each other this way. How do we do that? Well, now we have the only option, which is Z. So if we hit S to scale away on Z, we can scale them away until we get it to about 100 on that one too. You can actually like left click, get closer, and then do the same process again. As long as they're selected and you hit scale Z, you can get them exactly how you want them. See how it's 100 millimeters, all that good stuff. Let's say that let's take this line, let's move it up a bit, okay? Let's say like, let's move it on Z up, and it's like, oh wait, oh no, it's 68.5. I don't want that. I want it to be exactly 100 millimeters away from the top, okay? So we can right click this. One thing that we're going to introduce is called the G slide. It sounds like a cool dance move that you can do. So we're going to call it the cool dance move G slide. So how do we do G slide? So if we hit G to grab it, it's going to free grab it or whatever. We don't want that. We want to hit G 2 times. And then see, now it's kind of staying on this perpendicular line here, right? See how it's going up and down, and we can kind of come out a little bit, and we can hit GG. So GG, you can go up and down, and you can get it exactly how you want it. So see how where I first originally grabbed it, when I come down here, it goes so much faster than it is here. The line that is shorter gets more fine detail. So sometimes I will kind of come past the number that I want and then GG it again, and then keep on going until I get that fine detail. And again, you can hold shift till you get it exactly 100 millimeters. So fun fact about that. So you want to make sure we have 100 millimeters all the way around, and you kind of see now we kind of have this basic cube that's got some geometry to it. Pretty cool, right? So now that we've kind of made the things here, in fact, we can actually make this top one a little bit skinnier. This one doesn't look like it's as wide as this guy. So we can actually take this top one here. We can GG it until we get it to, let's say 75. Let's go 75, right? So I can't get that exact number. Like it's 75.3, right? How do I get that exact number? Well, you can actually move it. All we need is to go up, because going up makes it the number smaller. If we wanted to go up 0.3, we can actually move it on numbers. So we can actually alt right click that, and we can actually move it up 0.3%. Okay? So we want to move it up on the Z axis because it's going up and down, but we see that going up is the positive Z. Because look up here, if you go down, that's negative Z. Just like how positive X has the negative X, positive Y has the negative Y. So we want to go up. Up is positive Z. So we want to grab, but instead of moving our cursor or anything, we're going to type it in. We're going to go grab on the Z, the positive Z axis, not the negative Z, the positive Z, 0.3. I'll put that in the numpad, and look at that. We moved it 0.3% up, and now it's exactly 75. So yes, you can actually move these guys on percentages. You can type it in, all that good stuff. So yeah, we moved the things there perfectly. We got 75. That actually kind of looks more like the image, so we're cool with that. So now, how do we make this little slant? You see how now it's kind of got this little 45-degree thing, and we've been working with up and down, left and right. How do we get a 45-degree angle? Well, let me show you guys the way how I do it, okay? So we're going to add in some more lines. I know, we've been adding so many lines. I'm going to show why we're going to add the lines in and why they're important, okay? So let's go ahead and do the exact same process. We're going to hit Control-R, and we're going to get 2 lines, any direction, okay? We're going to left-click, right-click. Sorry, my person's making a weird face. We're going to get 2 lines, any direction. It's the same exactly how it was. So we're going to hit Control-R, and we're going to scroll up or hit the 2 until it has the 2 lines, okay? So we're going to hit left-click, right-click, and then the same thing going around the cube. Control-R, left until there's 2, left-click, right-click. Now we kind of have some more lines here, okay? Just like we started like before. We want it to go on the green, the red, and around the X. 2 of them. And we want to make sure they're completely symmetrical, okay? Why do we do that? Why do we add more lines to this? Well, kind of looking at it like this. If we go to the reference image here, you see how it's kind of like an arrow. We have the top border that we made. We have the sides that we made. But you see how we have where it kind of comes out and it stops at a certain point. And it's exactly the same length going sideways as it is going down. Same thing down here. We're going to make imaginary lines that's going to come close to the edges here, and we want to define where that point's going to be. I'm going to show you guys what I mean. So, it'll kind of make sense as it goes. We're going to take these lines now. It doesn't matter which way you start because I'm going to do this on all sides. We're going to right-click one of the sides, and then we're going to shift and right-click. We're going to take the two center ones that we just made, right? We're going to start with the red one, right? We're going to go parallel with the red, and we want to scale them away from each other just like we did before on the Y. But watch this. We see the border that we made here. That's going to be this guy. We're going to hit scale on the Y away from each other. But see, now we want it to be a smaller number. Let's go 45. Let's go 45. Let's bring these guys all the way. I went a little too early there. Scale Y. I'm going to bring them away until there's exactly 45. Okay? So that basically means this line here. So this line that is selected is basically defining the distance between the border here and where this kind of starts doing its angle. Okay, more on that here in a second. So we have the 45 degree that way, and then we have and it matches over here. So that's why we scaled them away, because we've already done two lines already. So we have 45 degree over there. So that's gonna just I messed away that. That is gonna determine the same thing here, right? The length that way. So more on that. We're gonna just basically take that. We're gonna go on this way now. We're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna Alt right click, Shift Alt right click on these guys, right? And then we're gonna scale. We're gonna scale them away from each other on the red. So I'm gonna hit S and then X away until we get 45. 45 is just a comfortable number for me here. So scale X. I'm gonna go 45. Remember, you can like do them individually to get that exact number. Now these numbers, the line's going around here. Remember how we made two more this way? We're gonna Alt right click both of these guys till we have them all selected. Now we're gonna go the exact same distance as we did here, the 45 degrees, because remember, it looks like a perfect like arrow. So I'm gonna scale these away on the Z until they get 45 away from the lines there. So we'll come up here, for instance, this guy. So we're gonna scale, make sure they're both selected, scale away from Z, hold Shift until they get about 45 there. Now look at this. We have perfect little squares. Look at that. See how they have little squares on each of the sides? 45 degrees perfectly. All the way around. And we've kind of had some geometry here all the way around the cube. Why is this important? Well, you see the cubes that we have selected here? Imagine on this, for the plank here, the cube is right here. So you see how it comes this way, and it's exactly the same length this way. Imagine that coming and meeting in the middle somewhere. There's your square. And we're gonna do two, okay? We're gonna do two of the little 45 degrees, like an X, essentially. That's why we did that. You could do one if you want. So how do we do that? How do we actually start making this perfectly 45 degree line, right? So we're gonna go back into edit, like how we have in edit mode here. Instead of face select, we're gonna hit the line, the point. We're gonna hit 1 until we see the little dots, okay? See how we have the dots here? This is gonna get kind of fun and kind of confusing at the same time, so I'm gonna try to break it down, okay? We're gonna make the lines where this starts and then it ends, okay? So that one solid line going all the way down. So if you look at it, it's gonna be the top right, okay? So you see how on this little cube that we have up here, we're gonna take the top right point. And we're gonna come all the way down as if we're making that little 45 degree thing, and we're gonna select the top right on this one. Okay, so just kind of picture, it's really easy. Top right and then top right. Once you have the both top rights selected in point mode, we're gonna hit the J key. J basically joins, okay? So it'll join and it makes, look at this. It has already made points here where the line intersects and it actually makes a point. We can actually change this if we want. Well, we don't want to. We're gonna right click. But you see how now it's kind of got this like 45 degree line. Right, and you can change this with anything that we do. We just went with 45. I think that's kind of cool. So we got one line going this way. We want to make the other one that's going down. So we want to, instead of top right, we want to do bottom left. So we come over here to this line, the square here. We're gonna go bottom left. We're gonna select the bottom left now. Point. Come all the way down here, and we're gonna select the bottom left down here. Then we're going to hit the join key. And now we've done the exact same thing, but down here. See how now it's kind of forming that little plank that's kind of the support barrier that's going down? So we've done that way, and you can actually do it the other way. If you want to do it one way, it's completely fine, but basically reverse it. So if we're going to do it this way, we want it to come out away from the outside. So in this case, we're going to do the top left. So here's like where the side plank is, and we want it to come out and come down this way. So we're going to do top left, come down here to top left here. I want to select the top left on that one, okay? Join by hitting J, and look at that. It's already made lines here in the center for us. We don't have to worry about that. Same thing, top left to top left. Now we're going to do bottom right to bottom right. Join, and then now look at that. It's like a perfect X. It's like the little borders that we see here, you know? Instead of one, I know this picture specifically has one. We're going to make two, just like the medieval crates, whatever you want to call them. The two little things. I want to do this all the way around. I'll just demonstrate again. From a fresh slate, top right on this one, all the way down here to top right. Join, bottom left, join. There's one side, same thing over here, but opposite. Top left to top left, join, bottom right, join. Now we have another X, okay? I'm gonna keep doing this, and I'll speed it up so you guys can see it, and I'll see you at the end of the process. And there we go. We kind of have like the little X's happening here. So that's kind of cool, right? So now, if I go back to object mode, it looks as if we did nothing at all. There's nothing been changed to the geometry on the actual surface of the cube. It actually is still flat. Even though we've changed the actual like design, and you see how it's like at the periods and stuff like that, we have to define now the thickness of this. You see, like if we zoom in on the image here, you see how these side borders here, they have a little bit of a thickness, like the planks have thickness, okay? So the inside here is actually more deep than the outside. These are kind of more flush, but the inside is actually behind, okay? So it's kind of like supported that. It's not flush. If you run your finger on this, you can feel how it's like, you know, deep inside of there. So how do we do that? Well, that is going to introduce extruding. What is extruding? If I go to face mode, I have to be in face mode to do this. We're gonna have the face mode here, and we're gonna select one of the triangles here. See how it's kind of like, it's got like 4 different triangles. Kind of looks like the Harley Davidson kind of thing. This is gonna be the backdrop of this, okay? See, it's like right now it's flush. If I want to extrude this backdrop, essentially, I just hit E. E can make it come in and out. Look at that. Pretty cool, huh? I can bring it out, and it has made new faces now. That's kind of cool. You can actually do the same by hitting E and bringing it in. You can get that fine detail by holding shift. See, now it's kind of got like some thickness to the boards. You can kind of see the geometry now. If I go to object mode, you can kind of see there's some geometry happening. Holy crap, there's thickness. So how do we do that, but, you know, have all of these going in different directions? How do we do that? So if I select all these guys, right, now I want to select all of these guys. That's all going to be the back of the thing here. Oop, select the wrong one. If I want to select these guys, and then I hit E to do what I just did, look at that. Uh-oh, they're all going in one direction. I don't want that. They're all facing different directions. So how do we do that? I mean, we could technically do one side of this, select all of these, and then hit E, and then bring it in. And then we've technically done one side. See how it's got more geometry? But how do we do that if we want to know how to do it all instantly, all at once, even though they're facing different directions? Well, I'm going to introduce to you guys what is called normals. What is a normal? Are you normal? Because I'm not normal. Normals are basically whichever way the surface is facing, okay? So for instance, if we use this, the normals for the top here is facing outward on the positive X. It's facing this way. If I look at the normals this way, the normals on this one is facing this way. It's facing out. This one's completely a different direction. This one's facing out here on negative Y. It's facing negative Y. When this one is facing negative or positive X. This one is facing negative X, and this, you know, you kind of see whichever way they're facing. They're all facing different directions. So how do we get it to where they're all doing the same thing, but they're going along their own independent faces? I know that sounds kind of crazy, but let me show you guys a little tip here. So if we select all of these faces again, and we're going to extrude these, but we're going to extrude them a different way by introducing Alt-E. What does that mean? Oh, Alt-E means where we can change how we're going to extrude that face, okay? So regular E just means we're going to extrude them, which means it's gonna like push it out and make it into a new shape, okay? Just like we saw before. But if we do it along the normals, which we just talked about, which is whichever way they're facing, it is independent, okay, along their own local normals. So we hit along normals, so I click that, and now I just simply move my mouse wheel up and down. Now look at that, they're all going in their own respected face orientation. See how they're all going out and, you know, coming in? They're not all going one direction, you know? We can actually make them reversed. That's kind of cool. So we can actually do that by selecting on normals and bring it in just a little bit. And now look at that. Look, all of the faces have been extruded all the exact same way. Like in their own, like, direction, shall I say. All at the same way, like same time. They're all exactly, you know, extruded in the exact same. Because, you know, sometimes if you do one face, one side might be sunk in deeper than the other. So that's why I like doing them all at once. And I just do them along the normals. So now if we go to object mode, look at that. We kind of have some detail now. Look at that. We can kind of see the boxes starting to kind of come together now. And, you know, we can do other stuff too. Like, see how there's like a little bit of a lip at the top up here? If you want to do that, we can do that too. Since we've talked about the normals, you know, and we talked about the edge looping. If we can hit Control R and we make 2 loop cuts here, we can just left click, right click. Now we have the 2 lines selected. We can actually scale them closer together. Let's hit S, and then we're going to scale them along the Z because we want them closer together. We want it to be a smaller little point, right? It doesn't have to be super small. And then we can grab it with them all still selected. We can hit G and then Z. We can bring it up here kind of, you know, we can put it in the middle or we can put it up towards the top. We can do it like that. That looks kind of cool, right? Now, watch this. We're going to go to face mode by hitting 3, or up here we can hit the face mode. And remember how we selected the lines before? If we hold Alt and right click, and you can actually select like on the line here, and you can Alt, and like it'll loop cut or loop select all of the faces here. Look at that. It's kind of cool, right? All the way around. Let's do that same method that we just learned. Alt E, extrude faces along normals. We hit that and move our mouse in and out. Look at that. We move it in a little bit, just slightly. It doesn't have to be too much at all. We can right click now. Look at that. We kind of have like a little bit of a detail now, as if there was a lid on this thing. Look at that. Kind of cool, right? You know, we can select one, excuse my voice, and focus in with the period key. Look at that. It's kind of cool. We've done all of this. It looks like there's like a top portion of this just sunk down into it. Okay, you can get fine details this way. In fact, when we actually do the video on how to do texturing, that's going to come in handy. Okay, because there's going to be 2 different textures. There's going to be, you know, directions and stuff. But I'm going to show you guys what normals looks like real quick, and we'll discuss it more in a video. Okay, so what is a normal? Why is that important? How do we see which way the normals are on this thing? Okay, so let's go ahead and show that off here. We're going to be in edit mode, and we want to come down and we want to hit the overlays tab down again, and then we're going to look at face orientation. This is also another way of saying show the normals. Okay, so we're going to hit that. Now look at that. Now the box is completely blue. Wow, it's a blue box. I don't remember changing the color. The reason why it's all blue is because, picture this and imagine this. Anything that is blue, you see. Okay, now if I come inside of the box here, get ready. It's a color warning. Everything is now red. Holy crap, my eyes. Red means you're going to see through it, okay? We're not going to see inside of this box, okay? We don't need it to have 2 sides, okay? More on that in a future video. But see, just know that blue, like see how Joe here, he's completely blue. If he was in a world, you would see him. If we go inside of Joe here, you know, if you peered inside of him, he's red, okay? Completely red. My eyes, oh my goodness, holy crap. But it's just a quick way to show you that, like, if you go inside of something, you don't need to see it 2 ways. You just need to see it one way. It helps on resources, all that good stuff. So if you ever peer your head inside of a wall and you kind of see where you see through it, that is the normals, fun fact. So the normals on this box are all facing outward, which means we can see it. If we peered inside of the box here, we would see through the box. We don't want to see through it. We want to see the definition, the details, and everything. So right now it's all blue. It's all good. Say there is something that is red. I'm going to show you guys what I mean by this. Let's say for example, this is happening. You see a red. You go to face orientation and there's something red. If something is red, that's no. Just know red is bad. Red means we're gonna be seeing through this if we put this in Unity right now. And we don't want that. So always be checking the normals on. I even have a designated screen that is just this alone. So I'm checking the normals as I'm building and stuff. So I don't have to go back and rechange stuff. Now, how did I do that? How did I switch this to go to red? Well, that was basically changing the normals, essentially. So if I right-click that face that I switched and I hit Shift-In, normally there's going to be a prompt window down here. It's going to kind of look like this, right? Rectangle normals. You're gonna hit that, and it's going to say inside. So that means that, you know, this little bitty thing here, excuse me, is facing technically outside. Outside means you see it. If it's on the inside, again, warning, if it's on the inside here and I hit Shift In, you see how now if I select that it's inside, it reverses it. Now this is blue, but on the outside it's red. So just kind of keep a little thing in mind, knowing that like anything is blue, you see, okay? So anything red, you don't see. We want everything to be on the outside to be blue. So I like I said, I designated like a window here. Let's say like I got my reference image here. Let's say I want to come down here and then, you know, I want to focus in on this thing here, this cube, right? Like let's say we want to, you know, have the cube here. If I can get to it, there we go. And then focus in on it here on this guy, right? And let's say I want to make this guy be face orientation. It can be in edit or object mode. And we have this here. We can bring this back out of face orientation because of the colors. And we can focus on regular like modeling, right? I'll model this and we can have a designated window here to see any change that we make on here as we're editing. Is it gonna show red? Is there gonna be any red? Is the normals gonna be switched? Do I need to switch it? We got a reference image, our normal window, I call this. And you can turn everything off except for that. Watch this. If I come up here and I hit the actual, not the down arrow, but the actual overlays window, I can turn everything off. But, well, in this case, I need the orientation. But, yes, you can do that if you want to have, like, a designated window to be like, there's nothing on the screen. You want to have it to just show stuff. But I keep everything on except for, like, the floor. I can turn the floor off. I can turn off the grid even. Like, I don't have to have anything. I don't even have to have the axes if I don't want it. And look at that. Now we can kind of see everything. And it is just solely focused on showing the normals on this thing as we're building it. This is a typical thing that how I have dual screens, so I have multiple different things happening. So yeah, always think about that. Have like a workspace to have stuff, you know, to have. You can move these, like, you know, they're not set. You know, you can even move it in here. If you want to focus solely on this, remember you can control spacebar. Now the full screen is this. You can focus on this, like, you know, only on just that one thing. Control spacebar, and you can bring these guys back, and then of course the tabs at the top. Make your workspace feel good and free and alive just for you, okay? So, my goodness, my things are acting crazy all of a sudden. Excuse my thing. Here we go. Now we're good. So this has been the start to actual Blender modeling. In the next video, we're actually going to show how to actually do texture unwrapping. What is unwrapping? What is texturing? What does all that mean? We're going to show you guys in the next video. In fact, you can probably see it right up there in the top right. We'll see you guys over there in that video. My name is Mr. Smiley. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the video today. Like and subscribe. And I love you guys. And we'll see you guys in the next one. We'll see ya. Bye.